In this video, I'm going to go over the integers timeline project that you will be doing in class over the next several days. This project will give you the opportunity to practice using a timeline to demonstrate mastery with positive and negative numbers. You will use 0 as the year you were born on the timeline. Any time before your birth will be a negative, and any time after your birth will be a positive value on the timeline. Each timeline must contain 5 pre-birth events, your birth, and 5 post-birth events for a total of 11 events on the poster. These historical events can be specific to you and your life, or you can choose events that are specific to the world at large. That would be helpful if you're having trouble coming up with your own personal events. You could use something that happened in the world instead. After completing the worksheets, you will create a poster of your timeline. Here's the plan. First, as I mentioned, you're going to use your year of birth as the 0 on the timeline. Then you're going to calculate 5 dates before your birth using the pre-birth worksheet, and you'll calculate 5 dates after your birth using the post-birth worksheet. Once you've calculated all of these dates, you're going to create a timeline poster based on 0 as the year of your birth. I'll provide construction paper, but if you prefer to use poster board, you'll need to bring that to school with you. You're going to make sure to label and illustrate your poster. Make sure that you keep it really neat and be creative so that we can vote on the best posters from each class that will hang up in the hallway. You'll collaborate with a partner once your poster is done, using the rubric provided to make sure your poster is ready to be turned in and graded. Here's how the pre-birth worksheet works. This will be all of the negatives on your timeline because these things happened before you were born, which remember we're considering the 0 on the timeline. First, on the worksheet, you're going to list the event. Personal is better. Some examples include the year your parents were married, or the year an older sibling was born, or another event that matters to you. Second, you're going to determine the value of the event. Start with the year the event took place and subtract your birth year from that amount. You might need help from a parent or a guardian with the dates of specific events. And then finally, you'll decide how you want to illustrate the event. If you have photos, that would be great. But if you don't, you could also draw. You could print out clip art from home and bring it into school. Or you can come up with another method. In some of the samples that I'll show, for example, there were actually 3D images that went along with a student's timeline. This is another thing that you might need to spend some time at home doing, but the poster itself will be created in school. You just might need to gather the pictures from your house. Here's a short video showing how the pre-birth events worksheet takes place. You'll list the event first, list the year of the event, and to calculate the value, you start with the year the event took place and subtract your birth year. Since I was born in 1979, I subtracted 1979 from 1965 to get the value of negative 14 for the event, the year that my in-laws were married. Same thing for all of the events that follow. My dad went into the Marines in 1968, so I subtract 1968 minus 1979, and that would be a negative 11 on my personal timeline. The post-birth worksheet, which will be the positives on your timeline, is just like the pre-birth worksheet, except these are the events that happen after the year that you were born. So we'll start the same way. List the event. Personal is better. For example, you might use the year you started school, when you lost your front tooth, the time you broke your wrist, whatever the event happens to be. Again, if you're having a hard time coming up with personal events, you could use something that happened in the world at large, something that matters to you. Second, you'll determine the value of the event. You do this exactly like the pre-birth worksheet. Start with the year the event took place and subtract your birth year. You might need help from a parent or guardian with the dates if you're not sure, or you could look up the dates on the internet if you're using something that happened in the world. Thirdly, you'll decide how you want to illustrate the event. Again, photos would be great, but if you don't have photos, you could use a drawing or clip art that you print from home. You might need to spend some time gathering the pictures from home for these events as well. Here's another short video that shows how to complete the post-birth events worksheet. List the event. I started kindergarten in the year 1984. Since I was born in 1979, I will subtract the event year, 1984, minus 1979, which gives me the value of 5. For these events, they'll basically be the age you were when these events took place. When you've finished creating your poster, you're going to work with a partner going through the project rubric, and your partner is going to correct you based on what you have completed. So the different categories include both worksheets. The mathematical value was computed correctly. The presentation of the poster, meaning it's neat and it's visually interesting with 10 or more illustrations, and it is completed when it needs to be completed. Once your partner has corrected your poster, you still have the opportunity to make any corrections that you need to before it gets turned in and graded in class. Here's a sample of a timeline. This is my timeline. You can see that I have 0 kind of in the middle. That was my birth year. All of the post-birth events, they go from 0 in increasing order up to 38. And then my pre-birth events, they go in decreasing order from 0 down to my very first event on the timeline, which was 14 years before my birth. Here are some other samples. I know that these are small, but you can kind of just get an idea of what other students have turned in. The student chose to do theirs completely on the computer. As long as you have a way of printing it out, that is acceptable as well. I hope that you enjoy this project, and I hope it gives you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, all while showing what you know about positive and negative numbers and how to add and subtract with them.